It is a tragedy beyond any expectation, but we are buoyed by the fact that the world has tried to lift us up and help us through this.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, people starting to return to Lahaina more than a week after deadly fires burned through the town. We'll have the latest on search efforts and finding any relief on Maui.
These folks are going to be on screen every day. Everyone is going to know who they are. Their lives are going to be turned upside down.
A new hurdle in Georgia as the identities of more than 24 grand jury members who indicted former President Trump may have been leaked online. The threats people connected to other Trump cases are also facing right now. And the first Republican presidential debate less than a week away now. What the 2024 race for the White House looks like and what other candidates are saying about the former president's legal troubles.
The city is running out of money, appropriate space, and personnel to care for families. We need more from our state partners.
And it's New York City's mayor versus New York's governor. The fight over housing asylum seekers and why the state is pushing back on requests from the city. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you on this Thursday. We begin this hour with a week after wildfires laid waste to western Maui. The search for victims still in the early stages. More than 110 people confirmed dead, and estimates put the number of missing at over 1,000. Emergency crews have been busy sifting through the charred ruins of more than 2,000 homes and businesses, trying to identify the dead. As relief efforts continue, the cause of the fire and officials' response is coming under more scrutiny. One man who lost his home in the blaze says that things need to change.
I would say to the leadership on our island to really, we can't bring the lives back. We can't take anything back. Nothing will ever make up the loss that we lost, here, our town, our neighbors, our friends, our family. They can't do anything to take that back, and nothing will ever make it right. But you know what? You need to start listening to your community.
Only a part of the burn zone has been searched so far. And while the cause of the fire is still unknown, Hawaiian Electric has been facing criticism for not shutting down power lines last week as high winds whipped through the islands. The main road into and out of Lahaina now back open again, allowing people to see what's left of their town and their homes. National correspondent Dan Grossman follows their return and the emotional day, helping people find relief.
In some respects, there was a stark dichotomy of emotions here in Lahaina today. On one hand, now that the Lahaina bypass, the main road that leads in and out of this burnt town, is open, residents who lost nearly everything are able to see the ruins for the first time, and others in this town were able to find respite for the first time since the fires came through last Tuesday.
Even under openly blue skies, there was a cloud of sorrow that hovered over Lahaina on this day.
It's just overwhelming right now. I feel for my neighbors, I pray for their safety.
From a perch above the dust and ash, Wayne Matsuda was able to see what was left of his family's 56-year home for the first time. It was just one story of the hundreds that were told as many survivors took their first step toward closure now that Lahaina's main road is open.
It's one thing to see what you see on the news. It's another to actually be here and have it just hits home, the magnitude of everything, when you're actually here and you remember what it was and what it is now in front of you. It's just hard to comprehend,
And while some, like Wayne, allowed themselves to sit in the waves of emotion, others let them wash to shore.
We're gonna go surf with peaches in our hand.
It might seem odd that in the midst of what is happening around Maui, people could even find the time or energy to do something like surf. But for anyone who knows what it means to grow up here,
I think I like it how you can just glide over the water.
They know this is exactly what some in the community, particularly their kids, could use.
Our son is angry, and he's confused, and he's 8 years old and doesn't know how to express himself. And so being in the water and being with his friends, he's actually opening up to his friends more than adults right now about his loss. So any way that he can bond with his friends and be with other kids is actually going to help him process this.
Tamara and Kevin DeProsa lost their home in the Lahaina fire. But rather than return to their source of grief, they and other survivors of the Maui fires chose to paddle toward their communal source of healing.
You know, it just makes you feel alive and wash away all your worries and all the negativity. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, that's super needed, man. Thank you so much.
They know it may not be a cure,
Delightful.
but if it gets their kids saying words that haven't been heard around here in far too long, they know it's a step in the right direction.
It gives us as a community and parents a chance to bond with other parents too, and talk story and cry together and laugh together.
Tomorrow, they will return to the long road that awaits, knowing no matter how hard the tide tries to drag them under, they'll come up for air once more.
We're here, and I believe we will survive this. Can't say that it's not as bad as it sounds, because it is, overwhelming ordeal that we all have to come to terms with. But I just want people to not give up hope and realize that we're still here and we're not going anywhere.
Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Maui.
So right now we're hearing the story of a person who cut his Hawaiian vacation short to help hundreds of people evacuate to safety. Captain Vince Eckelkamp and his family staying in a hotel a few miles away from Lahaina. The fires started the same day they were planning to leave, and the family packed up and headed to the airport. But after getting stuck in delay after delay and knowing pilots were nearing their working hour limitations, Captain Eckelkamp decided to try to help.
That was supposed to be flying. So I texted him and said, hey, if I augment your crew to give you more flight duty time, we can extend your day out and we can still fly from Maui to Denver. So the crew desk called me up and said, hey, this flight's going to cancel unless you can fly the flight. Can you do it?
Eckelkamp flew the plane in shorts, tennis shoes, and a polo shirt instead of a typical United Airlines uniform. He helped move 300 people off the island to Denver, Colorado. As tragic as the deadly wildfires in Maui are, they were unfortunately not a surprise to many scientists. In fact, there's been warnings for years now about the dangers posed by invasive grasses and abandoned agriculture sites on the Hawaiian Islands. Scripps News national correspondent Maritza Giorgio looked into this issue for us and found it's not a threat only in Hawaii. It is a threat right now across the nation.
Many people are trying to figure out all of the factors that contributed to why those fires on Maui spread so quickly. But many fire experts say there is something that we can all control now, and that is invasive and native plant species. Think grasses. These are very fine fuels, and when they dry out, they can carry a fire very quickly.
The deadliest fire in modern U.S. history, a fury that seemed an overpowering foe on the island of Maui. But experts are trying to amplify the same message they've been hammering home for years.
This is not outside of our control. The climatic or weather conditions, there's not a lot we can do about that, but we can take measures long ahead of the fires when they occur that can reduce risk. And prevent the extent of the fires, the intensity of the fires, and just limit the impacts we've been seeing.
Fire scientists like Clay Trowernicht have long pointed to invasive plant species as a potentially lethal threat. He wrote this op-ed 5 years ago, highlighting the dangers of the grass fire cycle. When rains cause grass to grow, the rain stops, the grass dries out, and then it burns. The problem isn't just in Hawaii, but across the U.S. Take the Great Basin in the Rocky Mountain West, where fire scientists say the invasion of cheatgrass has increased fire frequency. In the case of cheatgrass, fire stimulates its seed germination. In other words, it grows more after fire, becoming even more invasive.
Any kind of introduced vegetation is going to present a problem like that, particularly if it spreads quickly and grows quickly. Then you have that much more fuel for the fire, and some of that's very significant.
Again, this isn't a new conversation. This study, co-authored by Trowernicht 8 years ago, predicted increases in wildfire because of a growing population, rising temperatures, and expanding invasive grass cover. Authors say grasslands and shrublands composed 24% of Hawaii's land cover at the time. This chart spells it out. Between 2005 and 2011 in Hawaii, 54% of the area burned happened in dry grasslands dominated by non-native grasses. Part of the catalyst, unmanaged and abandoned agricultural lands. Think sugarcane plantations. Scientists call it the driver for dominating fire-prone non-native grasslands statewide.
So in the past several decades, as agriculture kind of declined, this is across the state, these spaces fill in with tons, literally tons of fuel. And these grassy fuels are highly sensitive to quick drying out and when really easy to ignite.
In Hawaii, non-native plants like guinea grass have taken over much of that abandoned agricultural land. It can grow as much as 6 inches a day in a wet season, and then it dries out.
Hotter conditions, drier conditions, more variable rainfall, it's only going to exacerbate the problem.
Some fire experts say native plants can be just as harmful. Consider palmetto trees in Florida.
It carries fire, meaning when it starts burning, it lofts with the wind, and the fronds go everywhere. Palm trees do the same thing, and they're a nightmare from a fire perspective. But that is their reproductive system, is fire. So we don't want to say all natives are good, all invasive are bad, but invasive just by its very nature, obviously, it's invasive in the sense that it's crowding out other species that need the space, the light, the water.
While we may not be able to get a handle on extreme weather events, fire scientists say we can start to do something about fuels, both native and invasive, now.
The good news in the sense of the fuel problem is that that's within our control, right? There are actions that we can take that would reduce that vulnerability, that would make conditions safer.
Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News.
Again, big thanks to Maritza reporting there from Montana for us. So people in Maui right now desperately need lots of help to piece their lives back together again. Scripps News is supporting relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen right there to donate to relief efforts. Any amount will help make a difference. And don't forget, tomorrow night, our coverage on the Maui wildfires continues with a Scripps News special report. We're going to take a closer look at the devastation and the plan to rebuild. You can tune in tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on Scripps News. Coming up next, Democrats on Capitol Hill now taking on artificial intelligence, the new group that's looking to create policy to address this technology. And tensions have been growing between officials in New York as the city is looking for help trying to house an influx of asylum seekers. We'll have the latest on the fight after a quick break.
If you, like many people, are covered by both Medicare and your state's Medicaid, here's something important to know. Now you could get even more health benefits than you already have. It's the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. To find out if you or someone you care about is eligible, it's easy. Call now to talk with us. We can explain it all and answer your questions. Medicaid gives you benefits and Medicare gives you some too. But a Dual Complete Plan can add even more benefits and features compared to original Medicare. You'll have lots of doctors and hospitals to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, including brand names. And depending on where you live, you could enjoy other benefits too, like more dental care and rides to and from your doctor or pharmacy. Most plans even give you up to $300 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and new this year, utility bills. And best of all, with this plan, there's no extra cost to you. Remember, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, chances are you could get a Dual Complete Plan. So call now to talk with us. Our agents are available to help. We know healthcare can be confusing. United Healthcare can straighten things out. And with over 40 years of experience, you can count on us to be there for you. With a Dual Complete Plan, you could have a wide choice of doctors to choose from, $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, help paying for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and utility bills. More dental coverage, too, all at no extra cost. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for Dual Complete. So call the number on your screen now to see if you're eligible or to enroll. There's more for you with the United Healthcare Dual Complete plan.
This is Sydney.
Hello.
Look at the space between her head and her shoulder. It's a square. The ancient Egyptians knew this. Pharaohs used this headrest. They offered great support, but were they comfortable? The Pillow Cube was made to fill that shoulder gap, optimized for support, comfort, and cooling. Buy the Pillow Cube today.
Wounded Warrior Project helps post 9/11 veterans realize what's possible. With generous community support, we bring warriors together and empower them to become stronger, inside and out.
It's possible to begin healing, to get the help you need,
to find peace. And as each warrior's needs evolve, so do we. Because these last 20 years are just the beginning.
If you're one of the many people struggling financially right now, Bridget's got your back. They'll send you $50 to $250 instantly, with no credit check or interest.
Download the Bridget app today and get $50 to $250 instantly.
Well, tensions seem to be growing between New York City's mayor and the state's governor. In a letter, a lawyer for Governor Kathy Hochul criticized Mayor Eric Adams' handling of the migrant crisis. In the meantime, the city is continuing to dig for funds to house the continuous influx of asylum seekers. Scripps News national correspondent Axel Tercios joining us now live from New York to give us the details on this. So, Axel, how has this situation developed and what exactly is happening right now?
Well, Veronica, we do know that the governor's letter comes in response to a list of requests that were made by the city. The state says the city failed to accept several offers of assistance, including the use of more than a dozen state-run facilities. Facilities the state says the city could have converted into shelters. Tensions grow in New York City amid the continuous migrant crisis. This week, New York Governor Kathy Hochul criticizing New York City Mayor Eric Adams' management of asylum seekers.
I thank her for giving her analysis over this extremely difficult time, what we've all gone through.
Adams insistent there isn't bad blood between them.
People who depict that letter as a brutal attack against us, you know, that's how people want to see the governor and I fight. That's not going to happen. I like her, she likes me, and the things that we can learn from each other, we are going to do together.
The letter from the state said the city failed to accept several proposals to use state-controlled sites that could house more than 3,000 migrants. In an interview with New York One, the governor laid out what the state has done to help New York City with the crisis.
The state of New York has provided unprecedented resources to help the city fulfill their obligations, and we will continue to do so. It is true that they did not accept some of the help we offered. That's a statement of fact. I can show you all the sites we offered when they were in need of state-owned sites. We offered them months ago. They're still available.
We're going to sit down and show her why we could not use those places. She stated that the invoicing of getting the invoices in were taking too long. We want to sit down and show her why it took that long and to come up with some ideas of, you know, we are really pleased with the relationship we have with this governor.
The Hochul administration also believes the city is not prioritizing the migrant work permit applications. The city says they've repeatedly asked the federal government to expedite the process so migrants can start working.
I think we've been very clear, very publicly, that work authorization has been a priority of ours since last year. I don't think anybody has been more outspoken about that than the mayor.
Meanwhile, the mayor also addressing discontent by some residents after the opening of a new shelter in Queens.
I don't have the authority to deport people. Why can't you just not house them? I don't have the authority not to do that. And so our goal in this administration is to give people clear information so they don't have this displaced anger.
City Hall says more than 101,000 asylum seekers have arrived in New York since the spring of 2022. The Adams administration says they have opened over 200 shelters in the city. Veronica, today the mayor called on Governor Kathy Hochul to stop the banning of the construction of migrant housing in local communities surrounding New York City. Veronica.
All right, Axel Tricios in New York. Axel, we appreciate it. Thank you. So the U.S. government says 80% of controversial buoys placed into the Rio Grande have been sitting in Mexican territory. New court filings include a survey by the International Boundary and Water Commission. Those buoys were placed in the river under Texas Governor Greg Abbott's direction. The Justice Department is now suing the state and demanding that the barriers be removed. U.S. and Mexican officials have been discussing ways to move forward. A hearing on the DOJ lawsuit has now been set for August 22nd. Still ahead on Scripps News Live, former President Trump expected to turn himself into Georgia officials next week. We'll have the very latest on the case and the potential trial date. Also, the world is facing an unprecedented shortage of water, and it could get even worse. The potential solutions now being discussed.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945. Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500?
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she went to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
Behind the nightmares of war, hide simple motivations.
An immediate concern is theft of grain.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat follow the costs and profits of the war in Ukraine, tracking the hidden network of Russian cargo ships, smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Scripps News and Bellingcat present Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Right now, Hurricane Hilary swirling off the coast of Mexico. Take a look. The storm strengthening into a hurricane this morning. It's now a Category 2 storm and could become a major storm later today. The National Hurricane Center says Hilary should weaken before moving into Southern California. The main threat right now is heavy rain for Los Angeles, Palm Springs, San Diego, and other parts of the southwestern U.S. Strong winds are expected starting late tomorrow. So gas prices have hit 10-month highs, but Citigroup is warning that hurricane season might make it worse, and that's because major hurricanes could impact supplies. AAA says that gas prices rose to an average of $3.88 a gallon nationally, marking a whopping 31-cent increase from a month ago. It's because of a combination of the extreme heat, production cuts in Russia and Saudi Arabia, and easing recession fears. That heat is also sending ocean temperatures to record highs, cutting down on El Niño's ability to stop tropical systems from entering the Gulf of Mexico, where many U.S. refineries are located. A new study shows the majority of hurricane deaths happen in vulnerable communities. Experts looked at 179 storms over the past 32 years, and they found major storms contributed to more than 18,000 deaths, mostly indirectly in the month of and the month after a storm. More than 90% of people who died lived in poor or historically disadvantaged communities. A new report finds the world is in an unprecedented water crisis that is projected to get even worse because of increasing demand and climate change. National correspondent Addie Guajardo reports on the call to implement solutions now.
It's easy to see how much less water flows through the Colorado River now than in previous decades. The Aqueduct Water Risk Atlas analyzes current and future water risks around the world and flags this region as a top concern.
We actually see that the Colorado River Basin is one of the most extremely water-stressed places in the world. 6 out of the 7 states within the Colorado River Compact rank in the top 10 of most water-stressed states in the United States.
The atlas finds that across the globe, 25 countries experience extremely high water stress every year, meaning they use nearly all the water they have. Population growth, industrial and agriculture demands, and climate change all contribute to a need for water that's projected to increase up to 25% by 2050.
As climate change makes water more variable, it becomes less reliable. Our farmers that are depending on water at a certain time of year won't be able to rely on that timing as much into the future.
Living with water stress jeopardizes people's lives, their jobs, the food supply, and energy security. Water demand has plateaued in parts of North America and Europe because of the investment in water efficiency technology. But clearly, some regions, like the Colorado River Basin, are still affected. The report calls on governments around the world to put in existing efficiency measures into place.
When we're thinking about agriculture, which covers 70% of the global water demand, there are a lot of things that we can do to make agriculture more efficient, whether that's, drip irrigation systems, things like that reduce the amount of water we need.
Nature-based solutions like the preservation of wetlands and forests are also highlighted, an urgent plea for action to avert an even bigger crisis. Addie Guajardo, Scripps News.
And I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget to check us out online. The address is scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. We'll be right back.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-820-9953.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and will even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-820-9953. That's 800-820-9953.
I've been super open about my struggles with mental health, and I really believe there shouldn't be a stigma around the subject or around taking medication for your anxiety if that's what you need to feel better. That's something I know firsthand, and that's why I trust Hers. They help women access quality online mental health care with no insurance required.
Plus, through the Hers app, you can manage your treatment plan or check in with your care team at any time.
Getting support for your mental health has never been simpler.
Start your free consultation at forhers.com.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. the only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs, like a top frame from your favorite holiday. Or you can even turn your glasses into sunglasses. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
Let's get you up to date right now on some of our top stories. Maui County's emergency management director is defending his decision not to activate sirens as wildfires spread. Herman and Daya believes people who heard them would have evacuated to higher ground toward the flames. The number of confirmed deaths right now is 111. Estimates put that number of missing at over 1,000 right now. There's some bad news for would-be home buyers. Interest rates for a 30-year mortgage are now at 7.09%, and that is the highest level in more than 20 years. The rate was at 5.13% at this time last year. Home sales are also down around 20% from August 2022. Sharply higher rates are also cutting into the available housing market supply. And the search continues for a Tennessee couple who disappeared in Alaska. Authorities say they missed their flight home over the weekend. Their luggage was found at a resort in the Fairbanks area. The couple's family says that they haven't heard from them either. Alaska state troopers are using drones, ATVs, canines, and helicopters in that search. Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Thursday. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Developing now, Fulton County DA Fani Willis requesting former President Trump and 18 others be put on trial on March 4th, 2024. It's just one day before Super Tuesday and 14 primaries across the United States. Willis also wants to schedule arraignments the week of September 5th. In the meantime, a Texas woman is facing charges for alleged threats against the judge overseeing the prosecution of former President Donald Trump in the federal 2020 election interference case. The woman is accused of leaving the threat and using a racial slur in a voicemail. She is also accused of threatening Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Scripps News national political correspondent Avajoy Burnett joining us now live from Washington with the details on this. So Avajoy, it's no secret that DA Fani Willis had asked for more security leading up to the indictment, and the same thing for her grand jury. What can you tell us now in terms of both of these cases?
Hi, good afternoon to you, Veronica. Well, at this point, this lady's name, she is based out of Texas. Her name is Abigail Schrei. She's 43 years old, and she's accused of calling the judge here in Washington, D.C., who's overseeing that case here in the district against the former president, and threatening that judge. The judge's name is Tanya Chutkin. And apparently, this lady allegedly called the judge on August 5th, earlier this month, and said, if former President Donald Trump doesn't get elected in 2024, we are going to kill you. And so once officials showed up at this lady's home in Texas, she admitted that that number actually belonged to her. And she also told them that she had no plans to go to Washington, D.C. But nonetheless, she was arrested. She's now been charged, and she continues to be in custody, Veronica.
All right, so that is a case in Washington, D.C. Let's go ahead and circle back now to the case in Georgia, because we've heard that identities of the 26 grand jurors in this Georgia election interference case might be circulating online on social media, and that there have been posts, anonymous posts, Avajoy, calling for violence against them. What more can you tell us?
This is something that's become very alarming to people who've been watching this. So we know that there are 26 grand jury members, and now some of their names may be circulating on these far-right websites, names, addresses, even social media accounts. And this could be disturbing because this could open up these grand jury members to potential harassment or even something that is even more dangerous. Remember, Georgia law requires that the grand jury members' names be out there, but the state does not put out their addresses. And so that's why this is quite concerning. We were able to speak with a defense attorney about this in the state of Georgia, and he said this could cause a chilling effect where people may not want to serve on grand juries anymore. Take a listen to this.
Unfortunately, we're seeing some fringe individuals make very poor decisions in contacting and harassing these grand jurors. I guarantee any law enforcement member who can put their hands on someone harassing grand jurors is gonna execute justice aggressively. Judges, that's touching the third rail. You don't mess with the jury, and the consequences will be swift and firm.
So we reached out to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office to get an idea if they're working on this, if they've heard complaints about this, and take a look at the statement that they sent us just earlier today. They said, "We take this matter very seriously and we're coordinating with our law enforcement partners to respond quickly to any credible threat and to ensure the safety of those individuals who carried out their civic duty." They also went on to say that if anyone knows of any potential threats, that they should call 911. But Veronica, this is yet another instance of things possibly moving in the wrong direction after people volunteer their time to help out with this judicial process.
All right, Avajoy Burnett live in Washington. Avajoy, thank you so much for bringing us up to date. So we are less than a week away now from the first Republican presidential primary debate in Milwaukee. 8 GOP candidates have qualified to be on stage that night. That includes former Vice President Mike Pence and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump, he's a maybe, and he's hinted that he may not even attend the event. Despite being indicted for a 4th time this week, the former president is still heavily leading in the Republican polls. Congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed joining us now live from Washington. So, Nate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is still a distant second in the polls behind the former president. I hear that his strategy was leaked online in terms of what he's going to be doing at the debate next week. What exactly is his goal?
It was, and it was first obtained by the New York Times. We have it here in this policy document, which was released by sources close to his super PAC. It was a consultant that was working with his super PAC, Never Back Down. They list a couple of things that he's supposed to do during the debate to try and have a breakthrough moment. I want to list some of those right now as they're laid out in this document. The document lists 4 basic must-dos. The first, attacking for President Joe Biden and the media 3 to 5 times. State GRD, that's Governor Ron DeSantis's positive vision 2 to 3 times. Hammer what he views as his chief primary opponent, Vivek Ramaswamy, in a response. One other thing, also defending former President Trump in absentia, the former president not expected to attend the debate in response to any possible attack from Chris Christie. Worth noting that a lot of this document has to do with how he should attack Chris Christie, go after Vivek Ramaswamy, and a large part of that is because of the polling numbers, which show him well behind former President Trump, not capturing a lot of that enthusiasm from former Trump voters, but at the same time, Vivek Ramaswamy catching up to him in some of the latest polls.
Now, Nate, if the former president doesn't participate in this debate, how do you think it's going to impact the debate? What will the focus then be for the other candidates?
Well, it'll probably be far more driven on policy than a contest over former President Trump, though the former president will likely still be the elephant in the room. I want to point out, though, the polling numbers here, just the numbers that we're seeing in this most recent Fox News poll released earlier this week. Former President Donald Trump with 53% of Republican primary voters saying they would support him, just 16% saying they'd support Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Vivek Ramaswamy surging now at 11%, behind Governor DeSantis, everyone else for the most part in this single digits. And so in this debate, we're probably going to see a robust policy discussion, but if any Republican were to have the chances of beating Donald Trump, they would need to coalesce a lot of that Republican support, the anti-Trump Republican support, with the former president polling at 53% of the vote, over half of Republican voters saying they would support him. All Republican voters who don't want to support Trump will need to coalesce around one specific, not Trump Republican candidate for them to have any chance of taking on the former president in the primaries next year.
All right, Nathaniel Reed reporting live out of Washington. Nate, thank you so much. Developing now, a federal appeals court ruling in Louisiana will restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone. Judges ruled the drug can remain on the market. However, it would no longer be available by mail or by telemedicine. The pill will remain available until the Supreme Court rules on the Justice Department's appeal of the latest decision. The couple, famously known for their relationship with former NFL player Michael Orr, wants to end their conservatorship. A lawyer for Sean and Leanne Toohey says they plan to consent in order to end it. Orr, whose life was portrayed in the movie The Blind Side, claims that the Tooheys tricked him into thinking that conservatorship was part of an adoption process. The Tooheys' lawyers deny those claims, and they joined our friends on Court TV to give their reaction.
The litigation came as a true shock to the Tooheys, and they're clearly devastated. As it relates to when this started, there's been efforts by Mr. Orr to obtain money from the Tooheys in the past year or so. Mr. Parise is more familiar with that than I, but I understand it's been going on for over a year. Now, you might know that Mr. Orr wrote a book in 2011 called I Beat the Odds. In that book, he acknowledged several times that there was a conservatorship and not an adoption. So I don't know how he's going to square that, but that's going to be an issue.
Orr also claims he didn't receive a dime from the Blind Side movie, which grossed nearly $310 million. But Toohey's lawyers say that each family member received an estimated $100,000, including Orr. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, lawmakers on Capitol Hill now responding to the growing concerns over artificial intelligence. The goals for a new working group hoping to rein in the tech. And we would love to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Again, it's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. Right now, we're offering 50% off site-wide. The only number that hasn't changed is our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. And if you've never tried Omaha Steaks, save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today. Why wouldn't you want to save 50% on 100% satisfaction? Just a little bargain hunting wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see or a comment on our coverage you want to share? We want to hear from you. Call our Scripps News viewer hotline at 833-4-SCRIPPS. That's 833-4-SCRIPPS.
Artificial intelligence is rapidly infiltrating our everyday lives. And now Democrats on Capitol Hill are forming a new working group focused on AI. The goal is to prevent deep fakes. Those are manipulated or fake videos that can be used to create damage or chaos for the public, national security, or the upcoming presidential election. The new Democrat coalition is a group of nearly 100 House Democrats, and they announced the initiative this week. Congressman Don Beyer from Virginia is one of the vice chairs for the first ever AI initiative, and he joins me now live. Congressman, thank you so much for your time today. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's fun to be with you. Thank you.
So, Congressman, congratulations. I understand that you recently went back to college to learn more about artificial intelligence. How is it going? What did you learn? And what do you think Americans most need to be aware of right now when it comes to AI?
Well, the college has been wonderful fun. I start my 5th class on Monday at George Mason University. I still have a long way to go, but building on it is giving me not just a much better insight into how artificial intelligence works, but also connecting me and connecting our peers to people that are right at the very center of this revolution.
Now that Congress is taking up the issue, tell us what this working group on artificial intelligence will be tackling exactly, especially in terms of everything we just discussed, national security, deep fakes, and the like.
Yeah, I think the exactly is the hard part. You know, what we're trying to do is avoid the mistakes we made with social media 20 and 23 years ago, where we didn't understand it and we didn't really do anything to rein it in. And obviously social media has been extraordinarily constructive and destructive too. Artificial intelligence will be the same way. There's so much good that is already coming from it, especially in healthcare. The ability to diagnose lung cancer and breast cancer and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, et cetera, much more effectively. But as you pointed out in your introduction, we do have to be worried about deep fakes. We're worried about what artificial intelligence could do to election security, what it will do to job elimination, which is the most obvious thing. There's lots and lots of jobs we might not need anymore. And what do we do with those people trained and educated for that specific sector? So what we're going to try to do is try to figure out what are the guardrails that Congress can put in place, and how do we begin to engage that community to plan for a world where artificial intelligence is everywhere in our lives.
And you're right about that, Congressman, because there has been this open chorus of concern when it comes to AI from people in Washington, such as yourself, but also people who are working on the tech. I mean, in fact, when President Biden met with 4 CEOs who are developing AI right now, Biden had this to say. He said, what you're doing has enormous potential, but it also has enormous danger. So how do you protect against the rise of artificial intelligence? How do you do it?
One of the things we can't do is uninvent the mathematics. You know, that's never seemed to work, is to shut down and try to go back to a simpler time of living. But what we can do is make sure that the laws are in place so that when AI is abused, and that's really what it's about. People will be using it in very positive, healthy ways, but other people will be using it for organized crime, to steal funds, to worst case, pornography, child pornography. So we need to make sure that we can punish and catch the people that are using AI inappropriately and develop ever better standards for how AI is to be used.
I want to circle back to something that you had said, Congressman, because you said that we don't want a repeat of what happened with social media. We want to make sure that we get ahead of everything this time. But there are other parts of the world right now that have been quick to regulate artificial intelligence. The EU, for example, they passed the Artificial Intelligence Act, and that happened back in April. So why has the United States been so slow to regulate artificial intelligence?
I think it's humility, that we don't want to over-regulate. We're not quite sure how to do it. Even the EU AI Act, which we've studied very closely, we think wouldn't fly in our culture at all because it so suppresses innovation and creativity, and really wants government to come in and regulate every phase of it. Well, we know that that's not the culture that we have. You know, we're much more about freedom than about regulation. And the regulation that we want to do has to be shown to be necessary and cost effective.
But what do you do when you see ChatGPT, for instance, and you see it write an entire book or a news story or an entire song in 3 seconds. I mean, what do you say to the people of America right now? Should they be scared that their jobs will become obsolete?
Well, many jobs won't be. And this is a leap of faith, but every time we've seen a technological breakthrough in human history, it's displaced some people, and people have been afraid about what it would mean. Certainly, we've seen that with computers, and before that with manufacturing technology, with agricultural technology. And yet, we have 8 billion people on the planet right now, and we can't find enough people for the jobs that are open in the United States. It always creates more opportunities, but people are going to transition. We have to make sure that we're helping the people that transition. And it's a brave new world. What we do need to do, I think, is think as deeply about these things as we can. There are a number of working groups on the Hill. This new Democratic working group I'm part of is the latest and maybe even the best. But we're all going to have to work together to make sure that we quash down the bad parts and extol and congratulate ourselves on the good parts.
Things, Congressman, are working, they're moving so quickly, and I am the mother of a 10-year-old, and sometimes I look to the future and I wonder, how do I advise him? You know, what do I say in terms of a career path? What would you say to future generations right now in terms of what jobs are going to look like?
Well, the one thing we know that we can't replace are jobs that care for other people. And that may be as simple as a nursing home, teachers, historians, writers. You talk about, ChatGPT can write a book in 3 minutes, but is it any good? Because all ChatGPT can do is imitate what they've learned by reading other books. But the real creativity and the human spirit is going to come from things that are novel. That there's no way ChatGPT, they can do math problems faster than we can. They can pull things out of the database faster than we can, but they'll never even be able to think the way we can.
Yeah, we're going to keep our fingers crossed on that one. Congressman Don Beyer from Virginia, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck in school. We appreciate you stopping by today.
Okay.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, students in Arizona getting out of the classroom and they are flying the friendly skies. We're going to explain how they're doing it next. And we would like to remind you right here to follow us on Scripps News. You can track us online, scripsnews.com, also on X, which was formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course on Threads. We'll be right back.
It's having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said, go for it. And I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
I have patients who think they've tried everything for their sweat. That's when I recommend Carpe. Carpe specializes in effective sweat solutions at an affordable price with products for the face, hands, underarms, and more.
It's honestly just completely changed my life.
Nothing worked for me until I found Carpe.
This makes my life so much less slippery.
I've personally seen the difference that Carpe can make.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com. Visit today and get free shipping.
If you're one of the many people struggling financially right now, Bridget's got your back. They'll send you $50 to $250 instantly, with no credit check or interest.
Download the Bridget app today and get $50 to $250 instantly.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8, 7 Central.
Well, some lucky students in Arizona are flying high right now thanks to a new flight simulator at one high school. Eleni Dow with Scripps News Phoenix takes us inside this unique program, giving teens aviation experience.
Seatbelt. All right, you're all set.
At just 17 years old,
There you go. And we're moving.
Dane Strong already has his private pilot's license.
My dad is a pilot, and he kind of inspired me to do this at the same time. Should be straight in front of us. Yep.
And now he's helping other cadets in the Shadow Mountain High School Space Force JROTC reach their dreams too.
Feels pretty awesome, to be honest. Having my private pilot's license is something I've wanted to have for ever since I got into this program. All right, yeah, you're good to turn now.
Through grants, the high school installed this $150,000 flight simulator to help students get hands-on experience.
The flight simulator helps us because other than me teaching in class, they get to see how the instruments all work together. You know, when you're pitching up, pitching down, how does your speed increase?
It feels like flying a small airplane.
Keep climbing where you are.
At least, that's what these cadets tell me.
Hopefully I'll learn the instruments well enough on the flight simulator to where I feel confident in a real plane.
That's the goal.
A little turbulence over the mountain.
To help these students get prepared enough in the flight simulator to feel comfortable to fly in an actual plane.
Something just calls me to it. It's super fun. It's just a different experience to go up in the simulator and try it out instead of looking at videos.
If these cadets are interested following this program, they can try to get a scholarship for an 8-week academy to get their pilot's license.
Probably pull back on the throttle a little. You know.
Which is something students at Shadow Mountain High did before.
He was able to get his private pilot's license before he even got his driver's license, which is a goal we plan on doing here. Land it. Oh.
And that was Eleni Dow reporting for us from Scripps News Phoenix. So if you're thinking of jetting off somewhere, travel experts are saying now is the best time to book your flight for the holiday season. Experts say airfare pricing works a lot like buying a winter coat. That means that you're going to get the best deals and prices in the summertime. Other tips that you may want to try, put those airline miles or points to good use. And you can also check airfares at nearby airports rather than at your destination. And don't be afraid of booking 2 one-way flights instead of just 1 round-trip ticket. There you go. Good tips. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining me today. Coming up next, we've got Del Walters, and he's going to be covering Donald Trump.